She hadn't kept track of time, so the toll when the bells announced dinner was ready surprised her. Already? However, a few people were gathering at the refectory. Instead, the curious monks were piling up near the abbey's gates. Alicia's heart almost crawled out of her throat. Then she saw brightness beyond the black figures, but it soon became apparent that it wasn't about the abbess leaving. Santiago was welcoming a group of police officers along the remaining abbots and the hunters. Alicia noticed body out of the corner of her eye and made her way to him. If I didn't know you better, I'd say you're a fortune teller. It's one of those times I wish I was wrong. We should let Bernardo know. The crocodile stuffed his hands in his pockets and looked the door toward his right. I think he might already know. Let's go anyway. There you are, friends. I see my coworkers already arrived. I'm afraid I'll have to go to the chief now. I believe I will get an earful from him. Are you going to be okay? Yes, believe it or not, I'm used to this. It seems I have a talent to get on the bad side of my boss. Huh? Do you think you'll keep your job? It sounds like you already have a story causing trouble. Not to mention you anger Alvaro too. We will see. Barry listened with his eyes closed, a low rumble originating from his throat. Just so you know, I left something for you in the infirmary. I imagine my comrades will be allowed to stay in the case, since they are going to need someone to bring them up to speed with the investigation. Hey, Bernardo? Are you attached to this place? I suppose not particularly. It has been my home for a few years, yes, but then if you get fired or anything happens, look for us. I know some police officers that aren't so sleazy back home. I bet I could pull some strings to get you into the police department there. Or if that doesn't work out, you could come work with us. We are better than any police department anyways. Huh? Ronaldo smiled and looked down. I appreciate the offer and I'll consider it. I'll try to be back by tomorrow. If I'm not, we can meet later in the town. After shaking hands with the two of them, Bernardo walked off towards the abbey's entrance. Santiago snarled something at him, but the bird ignored him and let two of the officers escort him out. Bobby started walking to the refectory and Alicia followed him. Alicia was starting to wonder if Bobby ever felt lonely. Although she tried to keep him company while they were home, they didn't share any interests she wasn't good at talking. Most of Bobby's acquaintances were police officers related to his profession somehow. As far as Alicia could tell, he didn't consider most of them friends and rarely ever met with them to fraternize. Did he yearn for someone like-minded in his life? Bobby had been a man with a peculiar way to look at the world for as long as he could remember. Past learning of Bernardo's absence had awakened a sense of kinship in him. He had always had that no cost too great mentality. Once interested, Bobby would very rarely clear a case. Did Bernardo put his livelihood on the line because he shared a similar worldview? Alicia. You guys look so gloomy today. I'm sorry, boys. I'm thinking about the case is all. Are you close to figuring out the killer? Perhaps. Barry nodded at the corners of his mouth, curled into a decent smile. Not knowing what to make of that, the monk turned towards Alicia. What do you think, Alicia? You better touch your cauliflower. Are you feeling well? Yes, it's just I'm thinking about. Alicia looked away and waved dismissively. Nothing important. Well, if you are thinking about it so intently, it must be important for you. But Alicia didn't have any rebuttal for that. She also didn't feel like she needed to answer either. She pierced her cauliflower and gave her a half-hearted bite. Alois bumped Frank on the shoulder. The small human looked down at his plate as his cheeks turned pink. If you don't mind me asking, I've heard you two make quite a name for yourself back in your homeland. Do you have any interesting tales you can share with us? Of course. It's the least I can do to prepare you for your help. Barney welled his chin, a deep rumble escaping his throat. Remember our first case together, Alicia? Huh? She swallowed a mouthful of vegetables she was chewing. I do. How could I forget? You told me if we didn't solve it in a day, you wouldn't let me work further with you. I had high expectations. It was such a simple case, too. What happened? The heir of a big fishing resort had died poisoned. The police suspected his siblings at first, but he discovered the murderer was his father's associate. It turned out that the owner still had the wife as well, so his associate tried to murder him by poisoning his wine. The son ended up doing it by coincidence. That's terrible. You see, accidents like this surprisingly often on this line of work. Barney took his glass of water and downed it. But I think the criminal we are trying to catch right now is very lucky. Except because Bernardo discovered that page from the missing file. I'm certain the culprit would rather keep that a secret. As Barney went back to eating his supper, he looked at his surroundings and caught sight of two familiar people. It was the officers that first arrived here with Bernardo. Lisa searched her memory for their names. The tall one with the blue eyes was called Annie, and the one with the big nose and pleading eyes was called Enrique. Excuse me, boys. Alicia, look. My government called out to them. Alicia followed them. Hello, detective. We're about to look for you. I figured as much. Give us a moment, and then we'll go to the infirmary together. Barney and Lisa go down a bit more food before giving their good nights to the monks and join the officers on their way to the infirmary. An intoxicating smell coming from the greenhouse hit their noses. Barney covered his snout and looked at Alicia, who, despite her stronger sense of smell, seemed to barely notice it. They passed by a long room equipped with rows of hospital beds, curtains, and some cells stacked with glass bottles. In the back was a metallic door one the policeman unlocked before going in. The morgue felt colder than the rest of the infirmary. This alongside the long metallic bed, the surgical instruments of a equally silver table, and the simpler furnishing made it considerably less inviting. Bernardo's man opened one of the chambers and pulled the body out. The body could almost be confused with a sleeping old man if it wasn't because of the wound on the back of his head. The detectives got closer to take a good look at it. Oscar. His head got bashed in. After examining him, we concluded there wasn't any sign of struggle or any significant injury before the fatal one. The killer approached him from behind and hit him on the nape with a blunt object multiple times. Very interesting. The number of blows he suffered aside, the circumstances seem similar to Williams. A couple entered through the window, correct? That's what Bernardo believes. We did find some dirt and grass on the windowsill, so it's almost certainly correct. Barney's brow tensed up. Is there any chance the murderer broke in without Oscar noticing? Impossible. Oscar was awake in the moments leading to his death. There is no chance he wouldn't have noticed someone climbing into his cell from the window. Then not only did Oscar give the murderer his back, but also allow him to come in through his window. Since the lawyers had brought up old cases of theirs, Elise had caught herself thinking of the past every once in a while. The expression of body in particular has always stuck out to her. It reminded her of that one time they got hired to help look into a serial killing case in her hometown when the police had apprehended a different suspect than the one that he proposed. Barney looked at the evidence and sat down at his desk with those same furrowed brows for nearly the entire night before shouting out, "I got you now." Elisa very vividly recalled the day she jumped out of her stomach in the sofa when he had that breakthrough. Similarly, he wore that expression on different occasions before he realized a witness had tricked him by playing the victim was a murderer, or that one time before he caught the man gaslighting his wife to create an alibi. Elisa started to wonder if he believed that they had fallen prey to deception. Do you learn anything from George's autopsy? Nothing we didn't already know, unfortunately. His neck was sliced open. At the places down on the desk, the culprit dragged the body from the legs to hide it behind the desk. I wonder why the culprit bothered to do that. Also, when Nono found this in Brandon's cell, it was inside one of his drawers. The other officer produced a plastic bag. Inside was a piece of torn black fabric. Body grabbed the bag and inspected the contents briefly before passing it on to Alicia. Do you know why he thought it was relevant? Intuition, he said. The analysis revealed traces of dirt on it, as well as some black hair. We speculated it might have been part of a glove, but we didn't find anything linking this to the scene of Oscar's murder. If only we had more time and better equipment. Black hair? So it can't belong to Brandis. He is almost completely white, what little he has. I wonder where Brandis got this from. Elisa, is it? Before returning to town, Bernardo mentioned you were interested in the books we found in Oscar's cell. We didn't have much time to inspect him, but at first glance we didn't find anything strange. Yes, I spotted that. By the way, Riley reached into his pocket and grabbed the letters Maggie had given him, but tucked them back inside when he heard someone approach. Detective, I'm afraid you'll have to leave. We need to talk privately. I don't mind. Thank you for the help, officers. Riley exited the morgue, and Alicia followed, although not without shooting the policeman a glare. They shrugged and closed the door after they left. Alicia told the crocodile about the book that disappeared from Oscar's cell as they made their way to the dormitory. This is very interesting. Does it give that old skull of yours any new ideas? Not necessarily, but it might make the process of piecing everything together smoother. I feel that we have the information we need already. What makes you say that? Intuition? Yes. But I'm going to bed for now. I need to store all this information. I'm hoping to solve this before another unexpected event takes place, but that isn't happening on a worn-out mind. I can't argue with that. Without more preamble, Riley got in bed. Alicia walked around the cell, going over the day's events before doing the same. Her consciousness slipped into the darkness with ease, numbing her to her thoughts until they seemed like a distant memory. Warm orange light falls upon Alicia as she walks on the edge of an earthen road. She looks over fences made out of iron wires, going through rows of thick sticks toward the cows lazily chewing grass in the pastures. It feels to her like this is the first time she has seen such a creature. That's ridiculous, of course. These cows managed to make it through the cataclysm. There's strength and numbers, she thinks, even if you were raised as livestock. Humanity surely survived thanks to being such numerous, widespread species too. But in that case, it is such a good thing they survived. It is not sad that they lived through the world's end only to continue being livestock. Maybe that is the only way they can exist in this world. Pathetic as it might be, everything has a role to play. The sound of dry leaves being crushed alerts her that someone's behind her now. Elisa cautiously turns around, trying to get a look. She is unable to make out of the stranger's shape. Is that her brother? No, this doesn't feel like him. Then maybe, Obley? No. Who is that? It had to be Body. He looks much smaller than she remembers, but who else could it be? She still isn't certain, so she looks forward and keeps walking. If it is Body, he might get irritated and ask her why she's ignoring him. But did Body ever do that? The steps behind her progressively get closer. Elisa starts wondering if she may have mistaken in ignoring the stranger. She doesn't know why, but she knows she shouldn't make this person suspicious. But confronting them isn't a good idea either. After some reflection, Elisa decides to stop and sit by the fence. She observes as the person following her stops on his tracks. Now he seems to be the one hesitating. This reminds her of something. Yes, she realizes now where she is. She predicts the stranger will now walk up to her and place his hand on her shoulder. As expected, he soon starts approaching her again. But then she blinks, and when she opens her eyes again, she finds herself in a completely different place. The forest, the passage, that person, all of it is gone. Instead, she's greeted by a red sofa and a fancy-looking table. Lisa realizes she's sitting on a chair. For an instant, she thinks this is the study man let them borrow, but that's wrong. She has never been here, not in reality, but as she looks around, she recognizes the room nevertheless. The position of the furniture, the windows, and the single door is lit up, so she's able to see it all clearly now. But she remembers this room with a dream she had her first night in the Abbey. With one other difference, the bed had been replaced with a sofa, table, and chair. Lisa gets up and instinctively walks up to the window. It's completely dark outside except for something she doesn't make sense out of. A wing of an unnatural color floats in the darkness. Lisa wonders if this is some sort of trick. Body told her there exist fluorescent materials that glow in the dark. Perhaps someone painted the wall facing the window with one such material. But she realizes how nonsensical that is. The light that makes it out through the glass doesn't reach anything like a hallway or wall outside, because they don't exist. All that is out there is void in that wing. She's now noticing how the wing seems to dance, like flames contracting and expanding as the logic defying energy keeping them alive fluctuates. Is that another wing she sees far off to the side? Lisa tries her best to get a look, but all she manages to do is hit her head against the frame. She could try to stick her head out, but she doesn't feel ready to find out what happens if she opens this window, so she stares away for the time being. When Lisa turns around, she notices something new. Something is sitting on the sofa. As if to answer her question, the being flashes for a moment, turning to that nun that once guided her here before breaking apart again. She has to admit that now that she sees it like this, she doesn't feel nearly as intimidated. Something was disturbing about that nun, like looking at someone wearing a rubber mask that doesn't fit them. She sits on the chair again and waits for the being to speak. His voice comes out as an amalgamation of many others, masculine and feminine. Some of them sound more like bellowing animals. And mixed with all of them, she can hear herself. I thank the herald for this opportunity. I have been asleep for so long. The herald? You know him, don't you? What do you want from me? That's why you're here, aren't you? I don't want. I need. I need my son back. Your son? It's been so long. I looked over him, protected him. He knew I was there even if he couldn't see. I provided him with guidance. The being's form, if it could be called that, began to say. There was still hope for him, but then came those damn safe-sitters and their treacherous leader. But how long must that child suffer before they are satisfied? The truth is that it will never end, not without me. We wait for the longest time, me and my servants. The time to act is very near. I don't get it. Safe-sitters, servants. It's why your son's suffering. He suffers because he loves you. It hurts when your essence is removed, when you transform into something you were never meant to be. It hurts that no matter what he does, how much power he wields, he's helpless to come to your aid. I don't know the meaning of pain, but when I saw his tears, I knew he deserved better. At least his eyebrows twitch, and for an instant he feels as if she's floating. But she's still there, sitting and talking to the shadow. You will help us. But I don't understand. It's been so long and so cruel. Curse you, followers of Abraxas. May the pain you have caused them to follow you tenfold. Your Twitter will bring forth your demise. This much I guarantee. The pandemonium of voices howls in anger, but at least it doesn't show the slightest hint of fear. Is it that confusion is overriding all the other responses? Perhaps he senses something else behind that scream. Vengeance, a thirst for justice. She realizes, as incomprehensible as this being might seem, that it has tapped onto something very human. At least it doesn't speak. What can she say to reach the creature? What words can lull its rage? There aren't any. There's only one thing that can heal its chimeric heart, half human, half unknown. The death of these people it calls the followers of Abraxas. A heavy air suddenly settles inside the room. Elisa's vision becomes blurry, and her temples feel as if they were throbbing in a painless headache. Her eyelids slowly close and then shoot open. She isn't in the room anymore. Elisa floats in the void of space. Countless suns surround her from every direction. Wherever her eyes trail off to, far away there is the promise of life. As she rotates in place, something else enters her field of view. 3 stars travel across a single orbit as if they were the 3 tips of a rotating triangle. The world around them is painted with distorted colors. The 3 stars dance in place like 3 black stains in the tainted canvas of space. Elisa opens her eyes, wondering how many years these dreams will save off her lifespan. She started getting off the bed when she noticed Body sitting on his one leg, still on the mattress, and his arm rested on it. He was looking at the door. Good morning, Body. Did you sleep? Of course. Were you having more strange dreams? You remained quite disturbed until just a second ago. Yes, but I think the stress is getting to me. Is something on your mind? I'm hungry. The crocodile grunted as he made an effort to get up from the bed. He raised his arms on a long stretch. Elisa could have sworn she heard his bones popping into place. They should serve breakfast soon. Let's go then. The refectory is bursting with monks, obliviously bantering and eating their meals as usual. The non-monks were pleased to see the investigators join them during breakfast too. Frank offered Alicia a salad with pieces of what seemed to be a greenish, slime-like vegetable on it. She declined politely. I'm curious. What are things like at Knox Church? It's everything relaxed compared to Erd's. What do you mean? At our church, we would usually do our community service or attend to ill or injured people. Sometimes we would get hunters who got hurt in an accident that no one else could deal. Especially back in the day when abominations would pop around the Capitol every once in a while. This place instead feels like a fancy school. As far as I can tell, you guys don't even engage in traditional worship anymore. Although I suppose working at the scriptorium could be a form of worship in itself. Knox Church is more traditional for sure. It needs to be. Our task is one that inherently requires secrecy. So our rituals have evolved months over time, and averting the church's secrets is still seen as a serious offense. What do you do if someone divulges these secrets? That is a secret too. Lisa nodded and drank some water. So what? Do you guys have praying sessions? Do you attend Mass? Indeed, it's similar to how secluded religious institutions were in the old world. We usually aren't allowed out without a reason too. This St. Church is one of the few places where you can find a knock monk if you're lucky. It all makes me so relieved I left my family. Even you would become your uncle if you had to live like this, yes? It does have its benefits. The library there draws even the one in this church. There's so much knowledge you'd be unable to find anywhere else in the world. Yes, I always spent the entire time reading about mythology. We were there. If it was allowed, I would have brought some books with me. The murmur in the refectory died down some as more monks turned their heads towards the sources of sound. Even the remaining abbots and the hunters escorting them looked with curiosity. Santiago had gotten up from his table and was hitting his glass with a spoon. It isn't pleased to have an announcement to make. What is this now? Today's usual activities are canceled. Instead, you all are summoned to the chapter house after breakfast. And I do mean all of you. Be at ease, honorable abbots, for most of our guards are stationed at the church so that you will be safe. Anyone that tries to skip this will receive a punishment yet to be decided. That's all. The parson sat back down and started whispering something to other members of the inner circle. Similarly, the monks resumed their talk, now even more lively than before. Soon a common suspicion emerged. They had caught the culprit behind the recent incidents. Interesting. They catch the killer. But then, why would we be summoned? Wouldn't the police deal with it? Frank and Alois turned the body. The crocodile scratched his chin and shrugged. The investigators stepped into a large octagonal room with several large stained glass windows. Santiago stood on the corner opposite the entrance, arms crossed and accompanied by two policemen. There were rows of chairs that had been laid out for the monks to use, with a gap in the middle of the formation. They would obstruct the entrance and provide access to the entire room. Bonnie and Alicia managed to find 2 free seats on the front row, much to the annoyance of the monk behind Bonnie. Santiago gave a cursory look to everyone present. Bonnie and Alicia were there on the front row as he had expected, and so were the others from William's inner circle and Remigio. The abbots had been given their spots behind the parson alongside the hunters. His guards were all stationed where he had ordered. He gave a few satisfied nods and cleared his throat for asking everyone to be silent. Thank you for coming, everyone. I apologize for summoning you on such short notice, but I assure you it is for a good reason. Bonnie, don't you think Santiago looks different today? Interesting, right? Let's pay attention. I don't believe I need to remind all of you of the series of tragedies that have preceded our peaceful abbey. As many of you correctly guessed, there's a reason I summoned you here today. We will put a stop to these tragedies right now, to which end we will be holding a trial. Ben raised his slimy hand, and Santiago gestured to him. Excuse me, Santiago, but does our trial need a defendant? We still don't know who the killer is. Obviously, I wouldn't have summoned everyone without a suspect. So you know? Yes, the monks made a racket as they started speculating between each other. Santiago once again asked for silence. Once the oil was rested, the possum raised a hand to his chest and with a highest quality smirk pointed his fingers at one of the people sitting on the front row. Let's not keep everyone waiting any longer. Stand up, Remigio. What? I'm accusing you. You're the one behind these killings. The hell are you on, Santiago? Is this a game for you? I can't believe you called us here just to waste our time. The chapter house was again filled with whispering, but this time the possum didn't wait for them to calm down. You may think I'm an idiot, Remigio, but you're sorely mistaken. First of all, I have a confession to make. The night before Giorgio was murdered, I noticed my master key was missing. At the time, I thought I had forgotten it somewhere, but recent events made me consider the possibility that it was stolen instead. Tell me, Remigio, do you recognize this? At the sight of Santiago, snapping his fingers, one of the guards stepped closer, pushing what looked like a kitchen cart with him. Remigio furrowed his eyebrows when he noticed the items on it. Isn't that Giorgio's lantern? Is that a key? Santiago held up the plastic bag that had the small metallic key inside. It was a master key. While you were doing your night shift last night, I ordered my guards to carefully inspect your cell. Yesterday, the detectives came to me with an interesting idea that Giorgio went to William's study to retrieve a certain item that used to belong to him. I won't be speaking about the item in question. It is not relevant. But for those not aware, William hid this item inside a secret safe inside his study. If we follow that path of logic, then we and the staff or the obvious suspects, all of us except for Mackie, knew about the safe as we were here back when it was installed. But there was someone else who was close to William and worked here by that time. Someone who, like us in the staff, doesn't enjoy the privilege of a master key. Someone who would be interested in obtaining one if they decided to commit murder in this abbey. So I decided to have that person's belongings checked in. Lo and behold, it was where I suspected.
Are you taking this seriously now? Stand up, Remigio, and face me. The vampire clicked his tongue, got up and walked next to Santiago. Their eyes locked together for an instant, but Remigio quickly turned his attention to the master key. So you claim I stole this key and used it to commit the crime, correct? You're so naive, Santiago. Excuse me? You aren't the only one who can make up stories based on circumstantial evidence. How about this? You are the killer and planted this key in my cell in an attempt to frame me. Maybe it isn't even your key. Someone else in the staff could have hidden their key in my cell to trick you if they noticed you lost yours. Then someone else, be it the true thief or a member of the staff, is framing you. Is it that? Exactly. Besides, Do you forget that the church key is also still missing? Giorgio's murder was possible with that key alone, since the only doors that get locked at night are the two entrances to the church. You have nothing against me. Remedios declared this last sentence with confidence, and yet Santiago couldn't help but let a little chuckle out. The vampire glared at him, eyes filled with rage. What's so funny? Nothing, nothing. I do hope that you come up with a better defense, and soon. What? Santiago placed the key on the court and then turned to one specific person in the audience. He pointed his finger at him. Mr. Detective, please step forward. Santiago signaled toward the spot between him and the vampire. A calm smile on his face, Body stepped into the spotlight. I take it you want me to testify? Yes, you will tell us exactly what happened before Giorgio died. If I'm right, then an interesting detail will come to light. This is what the trial was for. To go over each point of Remedio's defense against him. Body smiled because he was finally understanding what Tom had told him yesterday. He thought that Santiago from that tale was a thing from the past, but that was wrong. The poison had merely lost the master helping him aim. He still would shoot without a second thought once he found his mark. A seat was set aside from the main group in the ambush for Remedio. Body stood in the middle of the room, narrating the events that led up to Giorgio's murder. Santiago oversaw everything with a confident smile and cold eyes. The police have neglected to investigate this case for a week. Despite his best efforts, Body had failed to produce conclusive evidence. Santiago was certain he was on the right track, but he doubted that by now even a police investigation would be enough to take this case to court. They could have been very careful so far and had plenty of time to clean up any evidence he could have left behind. Body's theory about the missing file could still work, but there was a big hurdle that needed to be cleared first. The Abbots denied knowing about William's secret. There was no other conceivable reason for Giorgio to sneak into William's study, but as long as they denied this responsibility, it wouldn't hold water in court. But the Abbots only didn't want their secrets exposed. William had been the same way, so Santiago understood. And they saw that the truth could be exposed without revealing the secret, then Santiago could still win them over to his side. Only the admission that Giorgio had been lured into the church, but Remedio was needed. That way justice would be served and the Abbots could have their way. And the apostle would be able to salvage his career after this fiasco was over. Will would never be there to bail him out again. The first step was to take that annoying church key out of the equation. Santiago had no idea where it could be, but that didn't matter. All that mattered was certain that there was a reason the culprit needed specifically a master key to commit the murder. Only the two witnesses at the crime scene that night could prove this. There had to be something there. Indeed there was. Then, when I cut up with Lisa, stop. Now that's interesting. What about you? Did you hear the door unlock? Santiago looked at Alicia. Yes, I remember that. Isn't that strange? Remedio just mentioned that at night the only doors that get locked are the main and back entrances. Must be remembering wrong then. I don't think so. It was dark and quiet back then. How could we confuse the sound of the door being unlocked for anything else? But why would the door be locked? That's enough, you two. If both of them were so sure, Santiago would believe them. In that case, Santiago looked at a lantern on top of the cart. To tell the truth, I have been suspecting there's a trick to Giorgio's murder. A trick? There was another thing about the crime scene that didn't make sense, remember? The culprit, despite knowing of the safe's location, made a mess out of the study. And Isn't it strange? It's almost as if you weren't trying. It's almost as if you weren't even trying to hide you were there. For the seven's sake, Santiago. Santiago brought one hand to his chin and started walking in circles around the body. The crocodile stared at him with a expectant look. He needed to consider his next words carefully. What does it mean behind the study's state at the time of the crime? In particular, why would Remigio do this? If Remigio stole the master key, as well as the two church keys, he would still have had access to the church that had given Georgia one of them. More importantly, he would have had access to the key box away from Amelia's prying eyes. It would have been possible for Remigio to stay with the key, to mess with the study, get out and use one of Amelia's keys to lock the study before returning the key. In that case, he must have given Giorgio the master key for him to enter the study, which means he had been waiting in the hallway. The purpose of the mess in the study was to make it seem like he had been inside the entire time, confused the investigators. After killing Giorgio, he swapped the master key with a church key to hide his involvement with the crime. It all must have been about tactical advantage. Having a master key would have made any future crime much easier. For instance, a closed room in the dormitory can easily be cracked open, eliminating the need for other keys without creating suspicion. Remigio had to have gotten rid of the second church key by now. He probably had planned to return Santiago's master key later by placing it somewhere he could have lost it. That way, he would have completed the illusion that no master key had been utilized. And that is what the discrepancy the good detective mentioned to us. What do you think, everyone? Remigio hit the armrest of his chair and fell when he's baring his fangs. This is absurd, Santiago. How far are you planning to take this? How could I have been waiting in the hallway? Maybe I could have hidden from Giorgio, sure. But wouldn't the detectives have seen me enter the study? He had a lantern, remember? Santiago chuckled as he walked up to the cart and showed his back to the audience, but his gaze was locked on the snarling vampire. Tell me, Remigio, what do you think Giorgio did right after he entered the study? If he was going to look for something, naturally he would place his lantern down somewhere it wouldn't get in the way, like the desk, for example. In this case, his body would be blocking the light, providing you with the opening you needed to infiltrate the study unnoticed. Remigio looked down, clenched his teeth. He was starting to notice that even if he argued back, it might not help him. The eyes of the monks and the abbess was growing sharper by the minute. If it wasn't careful with his words, he would only dig his grave deeper. Bobby, for his part, nodded with an amused smile. I mean, that does sound like a yes. Besides, I and Lisa were talking to each other at the time. It would have been possible for someone to sneak in right under our noses. I see. You can return to your seat for now, detective. Let's move on to the next topic. Was any member of the inner circle capable of committing the crimes? To answer this question, we will need to answer about William's murder first. Come here, Ben. Me? Santiago nodded and the fire got up. He waddled to the center of the room, suddenly looking twice as slimy. I already know what you told the detectives, Ben, but please repeat your testimony for everyone that was present. Ben's testimony suggested no suspicious movement took place in that staff's dormitory until after Santiago went to sleep. As a person who should not have been there entered the dormitory, Ben unknowingly heard William being murdered. If this is true, then it immediately proves no one in William's circle is the killer. It was also known that before George's murder, only the detectives and the hunters had used the door to move in and out of the dormitory, while Lois had seen his window as a fitting replacement. In other words, the monk's dormitory was a closed room where the staff would say couldn't have escaped to commit George's murder. That's bullshit, Ben. How can you be so sure no one else left or entered the dormitory? Again, because of a mistake with my transformation. I don't care about that. I'm saying you are exaggerating to give everyone else alibis. Calm down with Mizio. Everyone can see one point. We shouldn't trust Ben's word alone. Even if his hearing is exceptional, he's still only human and thus prone to mistakes. Yes, that's right. I'm glad you're starting to see reason. That's why I believe we should compare it to the testimony of others to verify his reliability. What? You can return to your seat, Ben. Alois, later, come forward. How can we help? We need to test that Ben's testimony was reliable. We know he heard the investigators leave, but that wasn't all that happened in the monk's dormitory that night. Namely, he said he heard something loud outside the screen as well as a strange noise on the upper floor. I see. Yes, he was probably talking about me going outside that night. He probably heard me jump from the window and climb back up later. And that scream was poor George's. Will you say the facts line up with Ben's testimony? It wouldn't have been hard for him to figure out that the detectives left the dormitory at some point during the night and pretend he heard them. But everything else he said is also true and seems to line up with the order of the events. I think the same. Even if he had gotten things wrong, I can't see Ben being involved. I mean, we still guarded the hallway all night and only the investigators came down. How could the staff have escaped their cells? Jumping too? That's impossible. The two of them were allowed to return to their seat. Santiago looked up at Mitchell, who by now was looking down the floor as he bit his nail. Anything left to say to Mitchell? Anything? You're crazy, Santiago. As I said, the key had to be planted on my cell. I don't know anything about it. Can you prove it? Santiago walked up to the vampire with a challenging glare. The vampire, who can back up that statement? How did someone open and close your cell with the master key alone? You never mentioned finding your door inexplicably unlocked, nor has anyone reported suspicious activity near your cell. So? Why? Why do you suggest I would do all of this? And more stupid. You've been going on and on about me being the killer, but I don't have anything to gain and everything to lose by doing this. I'm blessed, remember? I'm set for life. Or I'll throw it all away. To kill some guys that don't have many years left anyway? To tell you the truth, I can't be certain, but I do have a theory. You say you used to have a good relationship with the abbot for a while, but that changed. Did something happen to make you start resenting him? Or maybe not just him, but the other abbots in general? Could it be? Stop 1 second, Remigio. Remigio? Yes, I remember now. I did always think that name sounded familiar. Do you know him, Diego? I suppose you forgot as well. Did the old fire abbot have a relative with that name? Did he? Yes, he totally did. What is this about the former fire abbot? Was he not the one who died in the accident? Yes. I also seem to recall his wife died too and his children went missing. What had happened again? Are you kidding me? Don't play dumb, Diego. It wasn't an accident. You got rid of him because he had dirt on you. Just like you got rid of William. Oh my. I am not the one with a motive to kill anyone here. You are. You were afraid William would out you, so you murdered him too. Calm down, Remigio. Hunting over and with a wild snarl, Remigio lunged at Diego. But before he could get anywhere near his prey, the vampire was stopped by a cold sensation on his neck. Santiago stood in his way, sword drawn and pointed his throat. The vampire let out a howl before slumping over. His shoulders deflated. He took a couple of steps back and fell on his chair. After an instant, the possum sheathed his sword and looked at the audience. That is all, everyone. You are dismissed. I will request the abbots to stay for just a little longer. I need to have a word with you. And guards, take the vampire away. After the trial was over, Body and Alicia exited the church and walked toward the garden to get away from the monks. Alicia was still processing what had just happened, but Body looked serene as ever. Alicia couldn't even begin guessing what that expression meant. It was bothering her a little. I have to admit that I'm surprised. I didn't think Santiago had it in him to pull that off. Was it that unexpected? He might have felt lots of the Williamson's sudden passing, but he still is a ruthless man that got where he is by getting his hands dirty. You need to be more patient with people, Alicia. One day you'll get caught off guard because of that attitude. Well, what now? Do we go talk to Maggie, or do we head straight home? It's not time to head home yet. But Remigio was arrested. Oh, Alicia, don't tell you actually think he did it. You do, don't you? You can be so naive sometimes. It's kind of cute. The crocodile laughed and hugged the hybrid. She resigned herself to fate and waited for him to let go of her. Okay, who the hell is it then? Was it really one of the abbots? By now I can make an educated guess, but proving it is going to be a different matter. We can't afford to make a spectacle like Santiago's to gain the abbot's support, so for now we'll stick to the plan. So we are still following them into the ship? Body nodded. Alicia couldn't help but think this was strange. If he was suspecting someone in particular, why would he still be so secretive? Knowing the crocodile, this was all like a game to him. But no matter how entertaining it might be, she trusted him to never do something that could endanger her life. With that in mind, it wasn't hard to deduce what he thought. Even if you don't know who the culprit is, you are safe. That was all it could mean. But whether he thought this because of Remigio's arrest or some other reason, she couldn't tell. She needed to figure it out. This does remind me, Buddy, I can play your games all you want, but there's something I can't stop thinking about. Can you tell me at least that? It probably doesn't have much to do with the case, but I'm curious. What is it? The letter Alois showed you. I suppose I could tell you that much. It was a love letter, huh? Why would he be so secretive about that? You see, Buddy sighed and scratched his head looking for the right words for what he was about to communicate. In the end, he settled on just saying it as it was. And looking around, the crocodile stepped closer and spoke in whispers. There's a good reason he couldn't let anyone know about that letter. I can't imagine how many rules of his church he must have broken. My uncle ever catches wind of it, he might get a stroke. You see, the letter was signed by Nock himself. Huh? I thought he was lying when I first saw it, but when he showed me that necklace, well, not even my uncle got a gem that size gifted to him. That isn't something he'd give to a subordinate, but to somebody you love. I bet is what Nock was thinking. Alright. I don't even know what this means. Is this even allowed? There's no precedent, but a monk trying to meet with Nock is an unforgivable violation of the church's rules. Of course, with Nock on his side, would be hard to settle this matter just by punishing lawyers. I think he doesn't want anyone finding out just to eliminate all possible trouble, thus the secrecy. Guess we shouldn't tell anyone about this either. Well, that's what I was curious about. What now? Yesterday Maggie agreed to let us into the farm-off. The Abbots and the Knott boys are coming with us. Them too? After everything that happened, Varro wants them to stay away from here for a while. I see. Should we go down to the village then? Of course. Let's go get our belongings. Body holding a suitcase and Lisa with her backpack on her shoulders, they unceremoniously walked out of the abbey, the gigantic double doors closing behind them. The hyper didn't bother looking back. Between this and her childhood, she felt like she had her fill with churches. Part of her couldn't wait to go back to the city, get home and relax. Between her last trip and this, she was exhausted. The relief of leaving the abbey behind didn't last long, however. They made it past a long path that descended from the mountain to large crop fields cut in the middle by the road into the town. Lisa walked close to the crocodile, looking at the nearby buildings out of the corner of her eye. I'm seeing a lot of faces on the windows. I don't like this. Stare near me. They didn't make it too deep into the village before a human peasant came out from behind one of the buildings ahead of them, a large pitchfork on his hands. Lisa stepped behind Body, but then she realized there were now people behind them too. She glared at them, but no words could make it out of her throat. Excuse me, gentlemen. We were making our way out of town. I suggest you step out of our way. I promise there will be no trouble that way. Shut your trap, demon. You're not making it out if you're alive. Demon. He came after the abbey burned, and then more people kept dying. You're the one behind it all, demon. I see how it is. Lisa, hide in that barrel over there. It's useless trying to reason with these people. The suitcase hit the dirty ground with a thud. Body cracked his knuckles, producing a sound akin to thunder, and started walking toward the peasant who suddenly seemed to be lacking courage. But before the situation could escalate any further, someone shouted their way. The investigators immediately recognized his voice. Step back, citizen. The bird stepped between the peasant and the crocodile, his arms outstretched and guarding a towering man. You have done a fine job concerning the demon, but this is too much for you to handle. Ah, Mr. Bernardo. Bernardo took out a pair of handcuffs and swiftly restrained Body with them. He sighed, wiped his forehead, and looked at the human man. There were tears of admiration in his eyes. Everything's well now. I'll take the demon with me to make sure he's properly exercised. He can leave the rest to me. Ah, thank you so much, sir. I was so afraid for my life when the beast charged at me. Understandable. He pulled from Body's cuffs. The crocodile's face was completely stoic. Let's get going, beast. Wait, what about the girl? She seemed to be just a hostage. Let her come with me as well. I'll make sure it's safe to release her. And I'll be taking this. Who knows what the demon's hiding? Bernardo said as he picked the suitcase off the ground. Thank you, Bernardo, for wherever that was. Don't even mention it. Bernardo removed the handcuffs from Body and carelessly tossed them onto the table. Then let you keep those. I always keep an extra pair at home for when I'm off duty. The locals can get very rowdy. But please don't resent them. They're very impressionable compared to city folk. And they are paid by the church to provide them with meat and pork and the crop, so the recent news has them very agitated. I'm concerned that they'll cause trouble when we try to get to the harbor. I'll escort you there, don't worry.
Bernardo walked to the adjacent room and returned with a plate full of some sort of small sandwiches packed with greens and meat. Bonnie let out a surprised exclamation and immediately started digging in. Elisa grabbed a single one and started eating it bit by bit. There's more in the kitchen, so eat to your heart's content. Bonnie said something with his mouth full, but neither Bernardo nor Elisa understood him. He started and tried again. It's like you were expecting guests. I figured it would be a good moment to use up the food I had laying around. I won't be staying here for much longer. The crocodile perked up. "Do you consider my offer?" "I did. I think I will accept it." "So you did lose your job." "It's not a big deal. It's not the first time it happens." Despite his words, the bearded vulture couldn't contain the long sigh that raised from his chest. "Really? With how diligent you seem to be, I would have guessed your bosses so far loved you. Sometimes the due process is interrupted because of some delicacy or politics getting in the way, and with this case, I'm convinced the abbots have someone in the church relaying their orders to the island's police. Yesterday my boss admitted that they didn't want this investigation until recently. But yes, cases like this are surprisingly common, and I often find myself stuck between fulfilling my duty and doing what is expected of me." "I see." Elisa noticed that Bernardo had been staring at her with a searching look. He got up from his seat and walked behind the habit woman, placing his feathery hands on her shoulders. "What are you doing?" "You seem rather tense, Elisa. That's not good." His fingers passed through her hair before gathering it and tying it into a knot. He started massaging her shoulders first with his hands and then with his elbows. Elisa's awkwardness melted away as waves of pleasant tingling and relaxation rushed over her. She closed her eyes with a pleased hum, let the bird work on her shoulders, neck, temples, and arms. At some point she leaned forward to let him work on her back as well. Ryan looked at the scene with an expression that was hard to read. "I didn't know you were a misogynist. I trained myself to help my confidence relax. You'd be surprised how many loyal friends I made this way." Bernardo nodded, chest sticking out with pride for his handiwork. He untied Elisa's hair, and his red eyes turned to Bonnie. "Your turn now. Please take off the coat and lay down on the bed. The crocodiles have very rough skin, so this will be more difficult." "Huh?" A few minutes later, Bonnie was lying face down on the bed, hugging the pillow tightly against his face with his eyes closed. Bernardo was straddling on top of him, tirelessly working to undo the decades of tension that had become knots in his back. Elisa was eating another one of the tiny sandwiches. She didn't feel hungry, but these little things tasted good and gave her a homey feeling. Meanwhile, Bernardo asked Elisa about how the case was going, so she explained what happened that morning. "I see. Then you are still chasing after the abbots." "That's the plan, yes." "Do you know what Bonnie's thinking?" "No, but I believe he must have a good reason to think Bemidji is not the culprit. From what you tell me, Santiago made very convincing arguments, so past Bonnie knows an oversight he made. Something you can't explain with his theory, or perhaps a contradiction." "I can think of a few things in that case. The glove, the missing button, the location of William's file. But what could it all add up to?" "Man, I feel 10 years younger. Your fingers are magic, let me tell you." "Oh, you exaggerate. Anyway, shouldn't the abbots be descending the mountain by now?" "That's true. Shall we head out now?" Elisa sighed with relief when they got to the harbor. It had been long since she had been so glad to feel the salty smell of the sea invade her nostrils. The farm was darkening and the abbots were already boarding it. Bonnie turned to Bernardo, hands inside his pockets. "Well, this is it. Fortunately, Maggie couldn't make arrangements to get you on the ship, so you'll have to stay here for now, Bernardo. I expect as much. But it doesn't mean I didn't get you any means of transportation. Meg will come to pick you up later today, so look out for any knocking on your door. Is that so? I'll keep it in mind then. And, Bobby seemed to suddenly lose his steam, twiddling his thumbs as he looked down at his feet. Bernardo smiled, patted him on the shoulder, and pushed him toward the ship. The case still isn't over, isn't it? Right. I'll see you later then. Until later, Bernardo. With those parting words, the investigators brought toward the farmhouse. Near the boarding bridge was Santiago, who was overseeing it, who boarded the ship. There you are. I expected you to be here earlier. Something came up. I see that. The possum was looking behind Bobby. You two are free to board the ship, but I'd like to have a word with you first. Detective. What is it? I want to apologize for my behavior towards you. Even if your presence was undesirable for some, you still were a fine guest of our church and deserve to be treated as such. That's what under the bridge as far as I'm concerned. Still, my conduct was inappropriate. I also want to thank you. The way I handled everything related to this case was terrible. From trying to suppress an investigation to hide important facts from you. I don't know how you feel about it, but I believe it was only because of our combined effort that we caught Remigio. I hope William can be at peace now wherever he is. I see. You don't need to thank us, Santiago. We are just doing this for a fat paycheck Maggie promised us. But still, I do hope you do better from now on. I imagine what happened to William must have hit you hard. Well, we'll get going now. Until next time, Santiago. Bobby started climbing onto the ship. At least it's not Santiago's way and fall at the crocodile. I think I'll be fine until next time. After leaving their belongings in their cabin, the two investigators discussed what would come next.
So, the entity that Elisa saw in her sleep, don't know what it is, but it complained about the safe centers, what they did to her son. So obviously, those are the kind of people that Nerus is a part of, and that he especially had venom for their leader, Nomino. So I think this story and the previous story with Sax and Nerus is connected, and see, we does not like to say centers what they did to her son. At least I think they did something to her son, and she wants this. Well, I don't know what it's to see it here, but this entity wants Elisa. For some reason, it has to do with revenge, and I think also trying to get her son back. I think, and the only way this entity can do that is through Elisa. So I don't know how Elisa could help this thing. I don't know, maybe at least have some kind of capability in which maybe, I'm not sure, but is it, I about the safe center, so the safe centers are immortal, and
I think the time period of the story take place. It takes place at a time totally different from the State Centers. I guess I think this is far into the future as opposed to events with Nerus and Sax. Because this is like a post-apocalyptic setting, and it seems though there are the time that with Nerus and Sax, it was before the apocalypse, but apparently there are multiple planets and worlds we were with Nerus and Sax, so I don't know, maybe this planet was always maybe this planet here was always destroyed and recovering, but Sax and Nerus were on different planets, and when they took their vacation, they went to other planets as well. I don't know, but apparently, Elisa somehow has some power with the thing, this entity is interested in, and that Elisa can be helpful and help this entity get her son, and as well as exact revenge on the State Centers and Domino. I'm not entirely sure about it, but I think if we go ahead, we might be able to make sense of everything with that situation there. And apparently, Santiago thinks Remigio did it, so after his trial, he had Remigio arrested. So, certainly a big difference from the last time we saw the two of them, which was when they were out fishing with Bitey. It seemed to be kind of like a little private getaway or a little private time for them to talk. So, what a difference a day makes. And there's still a countdown to whatever is supposed to happen. We're 19 days away from it. I don't think it's anything good. But something bad, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure it's something bad, but I don't think it's something good. But we're 19 days away from whatever's going to happen. And you're going to end there with Bitey and Elisa somehow end up in a confrontation with the local people. The local people, the peasants, were about to attack Bitey, and after trying to reason with them, Bitey gave up and decided to confront this one particular person for the crowd. He was trying to get confrontation with him, and the closer Bitey stepped towards the man, the less courage the man had. So, fortunately, Bernardo was there in time, because quite frankly, I don't think things would have ended well for the man. I think Bitey would have inflicted a lot of damage on the man, and because Bitey's a big, strong crocodile, and he's really big even for his family, and he certainly can inflict a lot of damage, especially on the peasant there. So Bernardo was able to end that situation with nobody being harmed, and it looks like Bernardo is going to take Bitey's offer, because apparently, I guess, the police there fired him for going rogue and doing an investigation without their permission. apparently he's not going with them, but he's gonna go there another way. He's gonna leave the island, reunite with Bobby and Lisa through another way. I think Maggie has some. I think Maggie has something planned for Bernard to leave the island. So Bobby and Lisa are gonna go on a boat with the Abbots who are leaving the island and see the murder is almost over, but they're gonna have to go on a ship to complete their mystery. So we're about to say goodbye to this island. It's a nice island and a little small town feeling to it. In the next video, we'll make sure, like the very first video, in which Elisa was traveling on the ship and wondered when she was going to arrive. The next video is going to be kind of like that. I mean, basically you get to be on the ship and going through the ocean, but what makes it different is that instead of just wondering when we're going to get there, they're going to be busy with a mystery. And they're going to find out who, at least going to try to figure out who did it. So, next time we come back to chapter 1, it's going to be the final video for this chapter. So, I know what happens at the ends. I've been playing this game for over a year now, so I know what happens. So, the next video is going to be the last video for chapter 1. And on the end of the video, Bobby and Alicia will figure out who did the crime, and they'll arrest that person. And that person will probably be looking at the death penalty. Because once they arrived on the island, that person was handcuffed and dragged to jail. Who that person is, you have to figure out next time. Next time I come back to this chapter. There's a thunderstorm out there right now. Where I'm living at, there's some thunderstorms and rain. Early in the morning. So, all the information for Nerus is in the description box below, including the Patreon, the Twitter. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye. See you next time.